lot of podcasts that talk about life in prison. They talk about gangsters and murderers and all kinds of true crime stories. This podcast is not one of them, though.
I drink a lot of silk now, almond milk.
Right, it works too well.
Seth, you don't want to get any taller, let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I stopped drinking milk, regular milk. No, actually, I stopped drinking milk in prison, actually.
Although I have been to prison. My name is Richard Bronson. I'm the founder and CEO of 70 Million Jobs. We're the first national for-profit employment platform for people with criminal records. Before launching the company, I was a true wolf of Wall Street, a partner at the infamous company Stratton Oakmont. In those days, I led a life of ultimate luxury and also lots of lies. I ended up doing time in prison for what I'd done on Wall Street and went from Ferraris and private jets to homelessness, destitution, and many, many dark days. Now, at my company, 70 Million Jobs, we've helped thousands of people with criminal records find employment. And along the way, we have come across quite a few fascinating people. People with heartbreaking stories. And yeah, along the way, there's been quite a lot of humor as well. We're here to introduce some of these people to you. I'm joined by my good friend and team member, Adrienne Hatter. So welcome to the real stories and welcome to the real people behind America's massive, dysfunctional criminal justice system. Welcome, my friends, to True Criminal Confessions. And here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. As usual, I've got my sidekick and good buddy, Adrienne Hatter, who's joining us.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Adrienne. Adrienne is on the 70 Million Jobs team. And we have somebody really special joining us today, somebody I've known for a while. And his story is incredibly interesting. And he's had a lot of success. He's done time, and he used that time very wisely and productively. And he does everything he approaches with integrity and also with a sense of humor. So rather than go on and on, let me just say hello to Coss Marte. Hey, Coss, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you so much for joining us. So you and I first met each other years ago. You were going through the program at Defy Ventures,
Yep.
which is a well-known nonprofit organization that works with men and women both in prison and out of prison and helps train folks in how to be a successful entrepreneur. And that's where you and I met, because I was working at Defy. And so when you first got connected with Defy, when you were in prison, or was it only after you were released?
It was only after when I was released. They didn't have the program yet inside the prison system. And then I joined. I was in the third cohort. That cat. It was like a small team of like 3-4 people.
Right.
And then I was an alumni. Once I graduated, that's when I met you.
Right. Oh, you had already graduated by then. Yeah. So, yeah, and Defy, is really good. Kat Coss is referring to as the woman who founded the organization, Catherine Hoke, who was very, very important in both of our lives. You were a very successful guy, however, and a successful entrepreneur prior to getting involved with Defy. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I sold a lot of drugs. I
bought a lot of drugs. I wonder if I ever bought any through your business.
Maybe. If you're using drugs from probably 2003 to 2009, that's when our service was pretty much running all over the tri-state area.
Okay, so you were selling Coke, I guess, mostly, and pot. Is that it?
Yeah, mostly coke and pot. I mean, we sold everything, but cocaine was the big one.
Yeah, for sure. And you were selling a lot of like Wall Street people, right?
Yeah, yeah, that was our target market.
And there's our initial connection.
That is good market choice, though. Um, you had a successful business. You were doing a lot of business, right? How many people would you say were like working? You were working under you, basically.
It was a little bit over 20 people. We had drivers doing shifts, 12-hour shifts. We had dispatchers all around the city. I mean, everything just started with me in a bicycle and sitting on a corner. And then once my neighborhood started getting gentrified, because I was selling like crack and coke on my
On the
block,
Lower East Side, right?
east side, from the mid 90s to early 2000s, just running, just being dumb on the street. Once the whole neighborhood started changing, there was this bar down the block from us called Happy Endings that opened up in like 2002. And then we started dealing with like white people, that had money, hipsters, that had their parents' money. And we started, we just started giving out our business cards. So we made out like fake happy ending cards that were black. We would sometimes staple like a bag of Coke on it as a sample. They would take a hit, and that was it, man. It blew up from there. Once that worked, we started going into more bars. We wore suits, ties. We changed the way we dressed. So what happened was I got locked up in 2004. Minor case, Coke case, and then I went to court, and I was going back and forth to court. And while I was going back and forth to court, I was wearing a business suit. I was dressing like I was going to court. But as I walked through the neighborhood, nobody really noticed me, and they're like, "Yo, you look different." Like, "Yo, what's up? Where you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to court." And there's where my idea came from. Like, let's all start wearing suits and ties because nobody's gonna notice you. Let's stay in cars. So we changed the whole way we dressed, the way we spoke, the way we presented ourselves.
Did you raise your prices?
Eventually, yeah. Yeah.
I would think you could get away with it at that point.
Yeah. I mean, people were excited that we were like, giving basically $1,000 for $20 in the beginning. And then we eventually raised it to $100 a gram.
Right.
And sometimes a bit more.
Were you, so this was going on for years, and you had one minor running with the law during that time, which is kind of incredible, isn't it?
No, it was not one minor. I was arrested 9 times, but like minor. I was arrested when I was 13 for selling pot on the block. I got arrested when I was 15 for selling ecstasy in school. And then I did a year in juvie for that. And then I came home. And then I just started hustling and didn't get caught till I was 19. At 19, that's when I did another year. And then I was just doing like minor, dumb weeds. Got caught smoking weed on the streets and stuff like that, and getting arrested for dumb stuff. But overnight stints, and then I got my big case at the end.
Okay, we'll get to that. But clearly, you were a successful businessman. I mean, it just happens to be you were selling something illegal, but you had this organization. You had to deal with supply and demand and marketing and scheduling and employees and competition and legal issues and all of this going on. Did you ever give serious thought to doing something else that wasn't illegal? Was that ever part of your game plan?
Yeah, we were trying to. So we were. We were looking at, I don't know if you remember the foreclosure homes commercials that were going on TV back.
Was that you?
So, no, so me and my boy, we partnered up, and we're like, yo, let's invest, let's out of the drug game, and we started seeing all these commercials on TV. We started making phone calls. They started sending us listings. We started spending money after money, and we didn't get shit. Like, it was all a scam. It was so crazy. And then we just gave it. We were like, we're not dealing with this shit. And I think we might have lost like 80 grand on that, messing around. And
So that turned you off to
that turned
any
me
other.
off. And I'm like, we're just hustling. We were bringing like $5 million in revenue a year. And I was pocketing about $2 million. So it was a service. So basically, as we got started, we had one cell phone. One cell phone turned into 2, 3, then 7 cell phones, because each phone only held 1,500 to 2,500 contact numbers. So nowadays, you have an iPhone that holds tens of thousands of contacts. Back then, these didn't have any memory like the old flip phones. So we were literally like picking up 2 phones at one time, and somebody was, I'm like, where you at? 25th and 3rd. Where you at? 15th and 5th. Give me 10 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. And that was it, and then we would use like Nextel walkie-talkies, and I'll call my drivers and be like, come down 15th and 5th.
So they were just driving around with a supply, a store, and you would just deploy them.
But we would only keep them with a certain supply, which we knew the law. So we knew if you carried more than a 8-ball on you, that you were probably going to get a higher charge. And so we basically kept that and we vetted people, made sure that they'd never been arrested. So everybody that's worked for us had a clean record. You had to have a GED or high school diploma. You had to have a valid driver's license.
Could you be a drug user yourself?
Was I a big drug user?
No, could they be?
Could you be?
No, definitely not. That was number one. And then we ran into people that were, used our drugs, and we had to deal with that problem. But it says you got to deal with every freaking problem in this planet. But
so you were that was about 5 or 6 years you were doing that?
Yeah.
And then what happened? Could you tell us what happened when you got the big charge came down?
Yeah. So what happened? So you want me to tell you how I got caught?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. So basically, one of my dispatchers got greedy. He started a new phone line. He started a new card. He called it, I forgot what, I think it was like Party Services or something like that. It's on like the New York State most significant case of like 2009. And so they had this card that he developed. They had like a firework card, whatever. And he started this number, and this number, he was stealing our customers. So he was going behind our back.
Wait. So just back up a second. He was working for you. Was he a driver?
He was a dispatcher.
He was a dispatcher. And while he was on your payroll, he started another scammy business.
And his cousin was one of the drivers. So as his cousin was going to the drivers, he was giving out a new card with a new phone. And they were like, oh, this is the new number, or this number. And as he was doing that, he was selling a different type of work. It was not the same, because we had our work, our coke accounted for, and down to every single dollar. So he had different type of work. People were complaining about that coke was being bad. It was cut and all that stuff. We were strictly getting stuff overseas, not cutting it, just bagging.
Good product.
It was a great product. So clients knew it was not our product. And one client that had my phone, this guy named Dominic, hits me up and he's like, yo, do you have a new number? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I got this new number, a new card. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, one of your drivers gave me a new card. And but the coke doesn't taste the same. Like, So I was like, let me get that number right away. So I call that number right away. My dispatcher picks up, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And he heard my voice. He hung up. He had all the phones on him, and he had about a half a kilo of coke and maybe up to $100,000 in that apartment.
Of your coke or his bad coke?
Mine.
Okay.
And so he ran away with everything. I had a connection in the cell phone store, so I switched all those phone numbers. I even took that number that he had, and I took it over. And not knowing that phone number that he had was being tapped by the feds.
Wow.
And so I'm sending my drivers over to, everybody that's calling that number, because I feel like he was, targeting my clients. And then that phone number was being tapped, and they had a whole year investigation on us.
And then one night in the middle of the night, they knocked down your door. Is that how it happened?
No, they were. So what happened was, after that happened to me with my dispatcher, I fired him. I started answering, me and my best friend, back then, we were answering the phones ourselves. And so we didn't trust anybody. We were doing all the dispatching. So I'm sending all the people over, and every person that I sent over that was calling that phone number, the Nextel was going, you remember what the Nextels were? Beep, beep. Right. You're old enough. You remember a little bit of that.
I remember George Washington.
You remember beepers. So
pages.
Yeah, so so it was getting caught like on that line, and my driver was not picking up every time I sent them to a person. So I had about 8 drivers that night, and they were all getting arrested one at a time as I was sending them to different spots. And like, what the fuck? I had a whole list of like 30 people. I used to have this easel board where I used to write who's calling, what's the amount they want, where they're at. And I kept a whole chart, and nobody was picking up. So I was frustrated. I'm like, I have like 40 people waiting. And I'm like, I got to go see these people myself. And so I grabbed like, I don't know, a couple 100 bags of coke on me. Oh, and I was like, I'm going to go fucking drive and deliver this shit right away. So I went downstairs to the stash house in the Bronx. And as I go downstairs, the fucking feds had a warrant for my crib, and they were ready to bang my house. And it was, how it happened, it was, I came out, and this detective called, his name was Steven something. He pulls out his badge, and he's like, "This is drug enforcement agent," and he was like, "Your name is Coss Marte, right?" And I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Who the fuck is you?" We're in the middle of the Bronx, South Bronx. There's no fucking white people over there. There's this big white guy telling me that my whole operation is over, and I'm like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" As soon as I turned around, they fucking just dropped me down. Yeah, they jumped on me and threw me in the hood of the car.
So eventually you took the charge, and you were sentenced to how long?
7 years. 7 years.
And where were you sent? This is federal, right?
No, they turned it into a state case.
Okay. Did you end up at Rikers at all?
Yeah, I was in Rikers.
I spent some time there. That was a nice place.
That was a beautiful place. It's a hotel.
It's a hotel. Man, that place was so nasty and so angry wherever you were, right?
Oh man, it's just is a disaster, and it's so sad that it's still the same, and that's the sad part about it, is that we've been trying to fight this criminal justice system and everything. I've been going in there. I'm actually making a COVID-19 mask for inmates in Rikers Island.
Oh, good for you.
And so we're selling a lot of masks.
So where did you do the state time then?
I went to Green. I went to Coxsackie. Then I Ulster. Then I ended up in Lakeview and came home from Lakeview.
Okay. So this is where the story gets even more interesting. By then, you know, people can't see, but you're a guy in shape, but somehow or another, you ended up big and fat while you're in prison, right?
Well, so I was big and fat when I went into prison.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And at a certain point, you were doing solitary time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you, from as I recall, you telling the story, I mean, the so-called doctor that they have in the prison, who's really less of a doctor than the three of us, probably. But they said to you, you better do something about your health because you ain't going to last the time you're in prison. Something like that.
Yeah. So you've been upstate, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
so when you go upstate, that's the first time you really see a medical doctor. Where they take your blood exams, then you're not really seeing a doctor. You're seeing a phlebotomist that's taking your blood. And then you're in intake. And so in intake, they called me down to the medical unit after about a week and a half. This is the first time I see any medical. And I was sitting in Rikers Island for a year. I didn't see anybody. And they tell me my cholesterol levels were through the roof, that if I didn't start exercising or eating correctly, and obviously in prison, you don't get the best food, that I could probably died of a heart attack because of my cholesterol levels. So they placed me on medication. They recommended me to start power walking in the yard. I didn't power. I just went straight to working out after that.
In your cell or in the weight pile?
Both. No. I was just running the yard. So I was running laps and then going back to my cell and just doing push-ups, dips, all types of calisthenic movements.
How much time when you go away to prison, there's a lot that's bad about it. But there's some certain things that if you do the time right, you can really get something out of it. I mean, you can think, you can read, you can learn a hobby, and you can work out, right?
Absolutely. I definitely took advantage of my time. Most people don't, as you know, go in there and waste their time, right. And get involved with gangs and get involved with the bullshit politics that it's easy to get involved with. And I did get involved with, some of that stuff, but towards the middle of my bid, I signed up for the college program. I started just reading and educating myself as much as I can.
And all this time you're in your cell and you're working out.
Yep.
And you start losing weight, your blood pressure starts dropping.
Yeah, my blood pressure dropped back to normal within 3 months. I lost 40 pounds. I went back to the medical unit. They took me off medication, and I was good. And I continued my routine, and I didn't stop. I became a little bit obsessive, where I was running the full 2 hours in the yard. So I was basically running I could tell now how fast I was running. So I was running probably a 8-9 minute mile. So I was probably doing a half marathon almost every single day.
If you run too fast in prison, you can get yourself in trouble, though, right?
Yeah, I was not sprinting. I like run.
They don't look upon that as a good thing. So at what point did you start thinking, hey, wait a second, maybe there's a business here?
So I was towards the end of my incarceration. I ended up in Lakeview. I went to, I was granted the early release program called Shock. After about almost 3 years towards my prison sentence. So I was about to be released. 2 months left in the program. My family's excited to see me. My son is excited to see me. And I get called down to the medical unit. And as I was going to the medical unit, I'm thinking I'm going over there to see a dentist because I've been on the as you put yourself on dentist.
When you go to prison, you should really go to do all your doctoring before you go away. Yeah. Because A, you can't see anybody, and B, it's almost better if you don't, because who they have available for you is just not really that great. So
Yeah.
getting a dentist is something literally, there are people who tell stories for 20 years they were waiting to see the dentist while they're in prison. Literally.
Yeah, so I get a call to the medical unit thinking I have 2 months left of my incarceration. I'm gonna get my teeth fixed. You know, it's been a long time. I'm excited. I even like brush my teeth before going over there. Yeah,
Flossing for the first time. Yeah.
yeah, right? Like I'm excited, you know, that I'm gonna like have brand new whites for for the girls out when I get out. And I went to the medical unit and they put me on a wall and they saying this is a drug test. And I'm like, all right, I haven't smoked weed. I smoked weed like early on in my incarceration. I was not fucking around. I was serious about my whole sentence towards majority of it. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go take a drug test. And the guy says, all right, I'm gonna search you. And so he searches me, and when they place you on a wall to search you, they put your hands like literally like down towards the, like if you could put your hands up right here, they have you like plank towards the wall. And this is Lakeview is known for like hands on, notorious for like beating people and kicking them out of the program. And so I get on the wall. This officer starts searching me very aggressively. As he gets in between my legs, I felt uncomfortable, and I shoved I moved my waist a little bit, and he punched me behind my head, and he said, "Today's not my day. Don't fuck with me." And as soon as I got up from the ground, I turned around on the officer. The officer pulled the pin. Pulling the pen means that they press that button in their walkie-talkie. And as soon as that button for the walkie-talkie goes off, you just need to embrace for impact. So about a half a dozen officers come, the whole alarm.
Okay, well, hold on for a second. Let's make this a little clearer to people to understand what you just went through. So you have first of all, you're clean completely, and you're taking very seriously your release, and you're looking forward to it. And they put you against the wall in a very kind of strange, uncomfortable position. And the guy's frisking you to see if you have any contraband on you. Yep. And he gets between your legs, and he's just kind of poking around there in a very uncomfortable way. You kind of like move your hips, yep, because it's almost a natural reflex, I would imagine, to do that. And he slugs you in the back of your head, right?
Closed fist. Just fucking
hard.
Yep.
You turn around, because what are you going to do? Just have your back to this guy as he's beating the shit out of you from behind. Yep. And just the mere fact that you turned around meant that he was going to pull the pin on his phone to bring hell and fury upon you in a matter of moments, right? Is that basically it?
Yep. And so they cuffed me, they hit me a few times on the ground. I went to like a fetal position, and then they walked me over to the box.
Box is what?
The box is solitary confinement. So you're supposed to get 1 hour rec with 23-hour lockdown, and rec is a cage. But they denied me my rec time, so I was in a 24-hour lockdown space. As soon as I get to the box, they beat me up again, and in this room that doesn't have any cameras. So they get away with that. They throw me in the cell.
So you were due to be released soon, right?
2 months.
In 2 months, they put you into the box. Do you have any idea how long you're going to be there?
I have no idea. I have no idea what the ticket was.
But you're thinking, holy shit, is this going to impact my release date, right? You have to be wondering that.
Yeah, I'm already thinking, I'm pacing back and forth. I'm already thinking like I need to contact IG. This is abuse. I need to contact my family. As I'm like pacing back and forth from my cell, an officer walks towards my cell, opens up the slot, passes me paper, pen, and an envelope, a couple envelopes. And I quickly grabbed that. I start writing a letter. I'm telling my family I'm going through all this. explain the whole situation. I need a lawyer. Get me out of here. I need to come home in 2 months. I enclosed the letter and I realized I had no stamp to send out this letter with. And I'm like, how do I communicate with anybody? You have to be in the box for at least 30 days to communicate with anybody.
They're not giving you the chance to talk on the phone.
No phone calls.
I'm watching and hearing you. It seems to me that this is bringing back memories that are kind of upsetting. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, I mean, I lost hope. You know,
Does it still upset you to this day?
Of course. I just feel like the power, police brutality is unfair, man. It's just crazy. It's crazy how, you know, and it's a racist system, you know, like I was in this prison where there was only one black officer, and the black officer was probably more racist than any other white officer, you know. And you're in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, you could see the Canadian flag from there, you know.
The middle of nowhere, right?
An hour away from Buffalo, close to the Canadian border, you know.
So to jump ahead, this is something I wanted to ask about, but you're sort of bringing it up now. Watching the video of George Floyd having the cop's knee on his throat for 9 minutes and watching the guy pass out and eventually die. Does that surprise you that happened?
No, that doesn't. I mean, it frustrated me. As I was seeing that, there's been days today, like, you know, a couple nights last week, you know, I really couldn't sleep, you know, just thinking about all the times that I faced police brutality, you know, by NYPD or correctional officers. You know, that was not the first time I was hit by a correctional officer. You know, I felt like it's just so unfair, the power trip they have.
I've heard people, it's an important point, and I want to bring up, and I've heard people talk about the way that they've been diminishing George Floyd as a person as a result of the criminal record that's been dredged up. But I'm curious to hear, you know, based on your experience and what you've been through, what you might have to say to people, you know, who may look at this in a different way just because he has some kind of criminal history, or that might in some way change their view of what happened.
These people can never understand what a black person, or these people can never understand what a black person or person of color will, you know, has to face with growing up. You know, they would never understand. I think we need them to experience some type of empathy and really take action. Racism is real. You know, it's, you know, when I walk into, you know, a VC, you know, pitch room, and I see just old white people and they hear my pitch and they're like, oh, great idea. But, you know, I already know that they're not going to invest even after I show them that I'm profitable, I'm making money, and I've surpassed, you know, these companies that are just burning through money. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I still won't get the money. So racism is real. You know, there's a lot of a doubt. And I think, you know, and people talk a lot about the looting. I think it's the wrong thing to do. I don't promote it. But, you know, if I was a kid and this was happening and I'm broke, I'm going out there and looting, you know? Like, these people will never be in that position. They don't understand poverty. They don't understand that these individuals probably don't have an opportunity to find a job, you know, because of the color of the skin or the criminal history. So, you know, I feel like they're taking advantage of opportunities, you know, like I would do the same thing if I was a kid, if I was broke, if I was hungry, I'm out there, you know, taking advantage, and I need to live, you know. So these people will understand. So I feel like, I don't know, they just need to create some type of empathy. Yeah.
So let's just continue with your story because
Yep.
this story just gets better. You get out of prison eventually, and you've I'm sure you gave a lot of thought, because the one thing you have when you, certainly when you're sitting there all alone day after day after day, you think a lot about your future and what you're going to do. And at that point, you came up with this idea of creating a workout regimen, an approach that could be a business.
Yeah. So I was already training in the yard. I actually used to hang out with, I started running in the yard, and I call it the eyes of other inmates. There was a couple inmates that I started running with, working out with. I helped over 20 inmates who's over 1,000 pounds combined. So we would form a circle.
That's 50 pounds each on average.
At least. Yeah. There was some people that was 80, 90 pounds, some just 20, 30 pounds. And so we all used to gather. I never thought I was going to create a fitness business out of this. But while I was sitting in solitary confinement, I just had a lot of time to reflect and thinking about what I wanted to do when I came home. I was very frustrated at the fact that I felt I was unjust. I was unfair for me to be in a situation that I did nothing wrong. And so I was blaming the system, blaming everyone, blaming that officer.
Wait. I got to ask you. You, for years, were selling drugs. And whether or not you or I agree or disagree that should be illegal, and I don't particularly think that selling drugs should be illegal. I think people should be able to take drugs if they want to take drugs. But nonetheless, you knew it was illegal, and you chose to do it, and you chose to do it because you wanted to make money.
Exactly.
Did you forget about the fact that the guy, or they beat the shit out of you 23 times for no good reason? But being in prison, did you think it was wrong that you were in prison?
I felt I was dealt an unfair hand.
In what respect? That you didn't have the chance to go to college, for example?
Not that. I think that I was arrested at 13. I was placed on probation. I ended up in juvie. I was in a spiral in the system from, 13 to 29 years old, so like
it was all laid out then.
Years of my life, I really didn't. I felt like everybody was against me,
Despite the success you had.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Despite the success I had.
You were making more money than some of the people you were on Wall Street that you were selling drugs to.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get out, you're pissed off, but you have this idea for a business, right?
Yeah. So I'm in solitary. I'm had like a spiritual awakening that changed my life.
How was that? What happened then?
So my sister, while I was in solitary, finds out I'm in solitary. This is the first letter I received while I'm in there. And she knew that I was there because she called the prison and was wondering, like, why are we not getting a call? My mom was like, Coss hasn't called in a week. And I was constantly calling home. And so basically she writes me a letter, and she was like, we found out you're in solitary confinement. All I want you to do is pray. My sister's like Mother Teresa's child, like, hallelujah, amen, everything. She tells me to read Psalm 91 from the Bible. When she sent me that letter, I said, fuck that. I'm not reading no Bible. I need a lawyer. Did
you ever read the Bible before?
Not really, but I had this Bible that she gave me early on in my incarceration. And out of boredom, I had nothing to do in solitary. I have to burn 24 hours a day. I decided to pick it up, and I turned to Psalm 91, the words that she told me to read. And as soon as I started reading the Psalm, a stamp fell out of my Bible. And that was the stamp that I needed to send out this letter, letting my family know the whole situation and asking for help. And so I felt like there was something bigger than myself at that moment. I felt like chills in my body. I felt like there was something bigger than myself.
God was sending you a message.
Yeah. And I started reflecting, and I started you know, seeing like there needs to be another way. You know, I don't want to sell drugs for the rest of my life. I want to be home for my son. I want to provide for my family, you know, positively. And I started realizing what I was doing was wrong. You know, that I was not only affecting my family, but I was affecting the thousands of people that I sold drugs to. You know, I seen people overdose in front of me and had a cold heart of it. And that, you know, I didn't even care about it before. And so I felt like I wanted to pay back society in a different way. And it quickly hit me. I want to start, you know, doing this fitness thing. I was already helping these guys in the yard work out, get fit. So I quickly like grabbed these long file sheets of paper that they give you in the box. And I started drawing out lines. I made like a whole spreadsheet of my whole workout. I came out with like a 90-day workout plan. I wrote like my whole story there. I actually came out with a book, 2018 is available on Amazon.
What's it called?
CONBODY. And is my whole 90-day workout routine that I created in solitary. And a little bit about my story there. But yeah, I came home a year later behind that situation. I ended up doing another year behind that. And I started doing it. I started doing it in the park. You know, I went straight to the park and did use the same tactics. I made little business cards. I started going up to white females wearing yoga pants and just pitching them, like just nonstop. Yeah, and it was, and I felt like I don't know. I was just so optimistic that this was going to work.
You see, you have, and it did, and we want to hear about that. But the mere fact that rather than think of all of this is standing in the way, you figured out a hack. You figured out a way to get started immediately, and you went to the park, so you didn't have to rent someplace to do that. Mm-hmm. And you were able to walk up to people who might be potential clients of yours, and you felt comfortable enough to hand them your card and to pitch them on why they should become a client. Yep. And that right there is the difference between you as an entrepreneur and 99% of the people who are entrepreneurs, as Mark Cuban would call them, who want to be entrepreneurs, that you were comfortable and you didn't care. And if they said no, who cares? What difference does that make? I'll go to the next.
Yep. I mean, it was, coming out, the world is moving fast. There's a lot of technology change. I went in with a flip phone, came out with touchscreens, and, Facebook, all this stuff was out. I had no idea what the hell that was. But it is also a little bit, you get this anxiety when you go up to somebody. It's like going up to a girl that you really like, and you asking her out for a date. But then after you do it for so long and you get so many rejections, you're like, who gives a fuck?
Right. So you were doing it in the park for how long, and then what happened?
So I was in the park for about a year and a half, but also like 4 months out, I got involved with the Defy Ventures program. I was looking for a job. I was, I was not making money out there. I was, maybe making a couple bucks here, there, training, but I wanted a regular job. I was being denied left and right. I actually was cleaning apartments. I was doing housekeeping off the books from another entrepreneur who graduated from the Defy program. Kim. So I was working for her for a little bit.
Another amazing person who I'm
yes, I was cleaning apartments for her, just off the books. And I was doing like 1099 work, and and just doing it on the side. It took me about a year and a half before I started renting out little ballet studios. From ballet studios, opened up our first location after hunting for so much locations, because I was getting denied by landowners because of the idea. I was pitching them. I was bringing ex-concept building to work out.
So what was the idea? There's a million gyms. There's a million workout routines. What was the idea behind yours?
So CONBODY is a prison-style boot camp, all body weight workouts. That means we don't use any equipment, exactly the same way I trained in prison. And the whole mission is to hire people coming out of the prison system to teach the fitness classes. So that became what I wanted to do. And I did it. I found a location, a basement on the same exact corner where I sold drugs at as a kid. Went back to a full circle there, and from there we moved on to a bigger location now. I've done like pop-ups in London. I opened up a spot in Saks Fifth Avenue with a huge pop-up in there. And doing a lot of virtual stuff now. We've trained over 30,000 people all across the world now.
Wow. And who is your typical client?
Typical clients, young professionals from the ages 25 to 35, 80% female. White.
Why do you think they're drawn to your particular routine?
I think a lot of females like classes. That's what they tell me. Like most guys go into gyms, lift weights. A lot of females go into, yoga classes, Zumba classes. And we offer a class with no equipment. A lot of people are intimidated by, what to do with this treadmill. How do I turn it on? Do I look stupid when I, start this button and it starts moving? What do I do? So the simplicity of us just using your body weight and how hard it is to just use your body weight and how it works. We've seen so many changes, so many before and after pictures at CONBODY. So many clients. You could just read the reviews. We've had, I don't know, probably over 10,000 reviews now.
Wow. Yeah, it's incredibly successful and well thought of. To what extent do you think, and maybe I'm completely crazy, but I always had the feeling that part of the appeal, beyond the effectiveness of it, and that it's classes, because there's a lot of classes people can take, the idea that this is something a little bit scary and it's a little badass sort of prison yard, and I want to have those guns and I want to be tough. Is that part of it too?
Absolutely. So they were, when I was going through the Defy program, my mentor, Michael Rothman, we sat down and we strategized, like, we want to build that anxiety. We want to build a little bit of fear before coming into the studio. We build the studio to look like a prison. So you go on prison gate, you take your mugshot. There's this, 5-minute showers, so we build the whole experience, so
a little dangerous.
Yeah. Living on the edge and people, write about it. This is one of the hardest workouts in the city. People say it is the hardest workout in the city.
So you currently have a studio. Where is that?
In the Lower East Side on Lolo Street.
On Lolo Street. Okay. And now with the virus, you are doing a lot online, right?
Yeah. So we have virtual classes. We've been hosting, we've probably hosted a couple thousand people online now. And then we also have on-demand. So we have a subscription model on our website for $9 a month. You could do 10 to 20-minute workout videos on our website.
Okay. So I would imagine, like most businesses, it's not exactly where you were, but you're hanging in there, right?
Like where I was making millions of dollars.
No. No, when people were showing up to your studio and pop-ups and Saks and everywhere else.
Yeah, no, it's not the same. COVID has changed it, but it's actually been a bit of a blessing for us because we actually build a Zoom camera in the studio now. So once we're actually opening again at 50% occupancy, we don't have a limitation now. There's people that could, tune in from all around the world. We've gotten people from Russia to Indonesia, Australia, China. Like, it's just all over Europe. Not too long ago, I just did a class for like 70 students in Spain. It's crazy, to see the response from all around the world.
What's the big picture? Where do you want to go? What's the dream?
I want to build a Peloton model. I feel like we
What
have
model? I'm sorry?
a Peloton. I don't know if you
Peloton model.
a fancy bike that just IPO'd, but they have a bike, that you could do virtual workouts, on demand workouts, that you have a little TV screen. They have an app. And so that's what we're working on. That's what we're raising money for. So we could hire a tech person and
To do a
operate.
bicycle workout
Not a
specifically?
bicycle workout, but just a virtual workout app. And so
Okay.
basically people could just tune in and do our workouts virtually from all around the world on a subscription model or just paying per class.
Gotcha.
And they're a $1 billion company now. So
Yeah.
I feel like, we have a deeper story. We have a better product. I think we can reach it. That's my goal. I'm working on building. I have the network. I'm pushing it as hard as I can, and I feel like we're gonna get there. I'm not stopping.
Adrienne, would this be something for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I very recently got into just on YouTube the HIIT workouts that I never really before was like I go for a long run and that was all I really knew how to do. And there's definitely, I think, a shift happening right now with people realizing what they can do with their body alone. So yeah, I'm into it. I'm already thinking like we can post the membership link, like, maybe I'll switch over from my current YouTube couple that I watch. Like, I'll just be honest.
A
And,
YouTube couple. That
oh
sounds
yeah.
kind of intriguing.
Well, it's like, they go back and forth. You got the man working out, it's a little harder. You got the woman's a little easier. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, this is all something up my alley for sure.
All right. So Coss, how do people now get involved? How do they access your online content? How do they, if they're in New York or they're in town and they want to come to the studio, what do they do?
So you can sign up directly through CONBODY.com. That's CON as in Nancy body, BODY.com. You could sign up virtually to take one of our live stream classes, or you could do a $9 a month class. We have a whole bunch of packages there. We have also a yoga mat that's high impact that your neighbor won't complain when you're jumping around the apartment now, that you could purchase on our website. And just get involved. This is not about just getting in shape, but you actually giving somebody a good cause and doing something right by employing people that's been incarcerated that have a hard time being employed.
Right, because a lot of your people were themselves, along with you, incarcerated. So what is, as the last question, what's the message? You go into prisons like I do, and I have, what's the message you want to leave people? They're going to be coming out soon. What do you want them to know?
Reality is going to hit you. It's not going to be easy. Rich, I know you faced hard times coming home. You could be very optimistic coming out, but then reality hits you, and you just need to be optimistic. You need to have that straight on, optimistic mindset, like everything's going to work out. You just got to keep pushing forward. You can't, go back into a negative lifestyle, because that's going to get you back. I mean, there's just so many, I was on welfare when I came home. I went on food stamps. I was living on my mom's couch. I thought I was going to come home and live large again right away with my idea. That didn't work. It took me a long, long time before I started even living alone, before I started getting back on my feet. And people need to trust that process and realize that everything's going to work out if you do the right thing.
Yeah, that's great advice, humility.
Yep.
And I had the same experience as you. Well, this has been great. I've heard you tell your story a million times.
Appreciate
and
it.
I've seen, sorry?
No, I said appreciate it for the opportunity.
Yeah, I thank you for coming on here. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, and Coss didn't mention the fact that he's always, People are always looking for advice and help, and he just like takes them under his wing, and he's very, very generous with his time and his heart. And, what you've done and what you've accomplished and what you have yet to accomplish, the book's not written about you yet. There's a lot of greatness that's there, but I'm very, like everybody who knows you, we're very, very proud of what you've done and what you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Adrienne, for joining us.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Good. I'm glad. And Coss, I haven't thought about this before, but when things start settling down in the world and I'm back in New York, if you'll have me, I'd love to show up for a class.
I'll train you personally one-on-one.
Oh God, please. You'll kill me. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks again for joining us. This has been True Criminal Confessions, Episode 1. If you like what you heard, you can follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. This episode is also available in video format. You can search us on YouTube at 70 Million Jobs and see our lovely faces. We look forward to having you tune back in. Next episode is coming soon.